What is up, everyone? OJ here from PlayerEssence, and welcome to my village, PE Ninjas, where you can come get all your latest Nintendo Switch and gaming news. So today we're going to be talking about the Switch teardown that went down and the analysis from Digital Foundry. And they tore this baby down. They tested some things, but still, it's funny because they did all this stuff and they have all this information, but they're still not 100% sure on things because of the custom APIs and stuff that Nintendo could do. But let's go ahead and get into this, and I'll make sure to leave a link in the description below. You dudes know that I'm not super technical or anything like that. I just kind of give the information, then I'll give my opinion on the matter, and then we'll kind of just move forward there. So this new analysis apparently shows that there is going to be some type of performance boost while in a mobile mode, or mobile clock speeds have been increased by 25% or something like that. So let's go ahead and get right into the information here. So there is a 4310 mAh 16WHR battery that takes up a good portion of the internal space. So basically with that is that the Nintendo Switch has pretty much the biggest and baddest battery that it can have for the form factor that it's in. The Nintendo Switch is held together by screws. Well, that's good to know. The detachable micro SD card reader, so you will be able to replace that if there is some type of issue. This seems to sit on top of the heat shield when the unit is first opened. 32 gigabytes of eMMC NAND storage also seems to occupy its own mini daughter board. The CPU, 4 ARM Cortex A57 cores. The GPU, 256 CUDA cores. The architecture, NVIDIA 2nd generation Maxwell. The texture, 16 pixels per cycle. The fill, 14.4 pixels per cycle. The memory, 4 gigabytes at 1331.2 MHz/16 MHz. Memory bandwidth 25.6 GBs per second. VRAM is shared across the whole system. System memory 32 gigabytes. Max transfer rate of 400 megabytes per second. The USB is 2.0 and 3.0. The video output is 1080p at 60 frames per second. The display is 6.2-inch LCD at 720p. 10-point multi-touch support. Updates to aspects such as clock speeds are added in further SDK updates. SDK version 4.1 right at this point. One of the 4 ARM cores is reserved for the system. Switch may reserve 10% of GPU time for the system too. The Chinese teardown strongly suggests that Switch does indeed use a mildly tweaked Tegra X1. The heat pipe siphons heat away from the NVIDIA Tegra processor. Active cooling is available to stop the processor from overheating. In dock mode, the GPU clock generally rise by a factor of 2.5 times. 2 gigabytes of LPDDR4 memory modules. NVIDIA Tegra processor was tested several days straight with CPU clocks operating at 1.78 gigahertz. This is representing a 20% boost in terms of GPU power, 921 to 768 megahertz, and a 75% bump to CPU power. The physical size of the chip is seemingly unchanged from the existing 20 nm Tegra X1 SoC. Processor is surrounded by the same surface-mounted arrangement of what are likely to be decoupling capacitors. Seems to be a lightly modified X1, still on the 20 nm process. Nintendo has added the available performance modes available to developers in a recent update. Undocked at 1020 MHz, 307.2 MHz/384 MHz, 1331.2 MHz. Docked 1020 MHz, 307.2 MHz/384 MHz/768 MHz, 1331.2 MHz/1600 MHz. Developers can opt for a 384 MHz GPU clock at a 25% uplift in compute power. Adjustments have been made to available memory bandwidth. 1600 MHz option is now only available in boost mode when the Switch is docked. 1600 MHz support in mobile mode is available. Not all games will use the 384 MHz GPU mobile mode. Shield uses 2 1.5 gigabyte modules, while Switch ups that to 2 gigabyte configuration for 4 gigabytes of total system memory or RAM. Under load, the highest power drawn seen so far is 16 watts. So let's talk about this, guys, because this is a lot of information. I've said once again that I'm no techie. I don't know about all this stuff here. Probably Spawn Wave, Super Metal Dave, those dudes will be able to better explain it, in addition to Digital Foundry as well. And once again, I do want to apologize. I am still a little bit sick. I'm getting over it. My voice is getting a little bit better, but I'm terribly sorry for those who are getting kind of annoyed with my sick voice. So I'm sorry about that, but I am recovering, and I definitely have to make videos for you guys. So let's get into this a little bit. So it's pretty much lining up with what, like the rumors and everything was saying, like with the CUDA cores and the RAM and everything like that. And overall, I don't think it's necessarily a bad system considering the form factor of it. And I think even not the form factor, the fact that the system, definitely what you're trying to do with the system, what it can do. And I think that's the biggest thing you have to take into consideration. It is not a huge Xbox One or PS4. It's generally a mobile console or device that can be played at home, can gain performance from being at home, in addition to that, having the same game that you can take on the go. I think anyone pretty much in tech at this point who has been looking at this device, especially Digital Foundry, everyone is pretty freaking excited and pretty impressed with how Nintendo was able to design the system, especially compared to the Wii U, which wasn't really designed anywhere near as smart as this device is. This device is designed very smartly. It's designed in order to get the max performance that you can get for what you're trying to do, in order to keep the system cool, battery life to be good for this type of power that you're drawing. I mean, the amount of watts that's even going, 16 watts, that is incredible considering that like PS4 and Xbox One use I think like 100. I know Xbox One is around 100 watts, you know, at the highest power draw. So the fact that you're going to be able to get games that run on PS4 and Xbox One, also on the Nintendo Switch at this power draw, is incredible. Another thing that I want to talk about is what Capcom said about the RAM. I'm really glad that Nintendo decided to actually up the RAM a bit, because it seemed like they were probably going to go with what just like the Shield has, 2 1.5 gigabyte modules of RAM, so 3 gigabytes total. That's what the Shield devices have. I think the Shield tablet has 2 or 3, one of those two, but I guess the Shield X1 console, that has 3 gigabytes of RAM. So I think Nintendo is probably just going to go with that, thinking, hey, we can just probably use this. But Capcom was able to kind of jump in there and get them to make 1 more gigabyte of RAM, and that probably costs quite a bit to add that extra gigabyte of RAM. I don't know if you've ever built a PC and you add RAM. I know 1 gigabyte isn't as expensive as adding like 4 or 8, but still, for a console, for a device, adding 1 is definitely pricey. So I'm glad that, you know, Nintendo and Capcom were able to do that, because I think that it will help out when it comes to getting certain games running, when it comes to the actual performance of games, once developers really get their, you know, hands on the Nintendo Switch and start sinking time into development. One of the things on here, it says that it's a slightly modified Tegra X1, but it does seem like Nintendo has been boosting the clock speeds. The fact that there is a mobile boost mode, that's actually really good. I'm really excited and happy that there is a mobile boost mode, so games that are on portably, if you're playing it away from home, can perform better. So that's actually really cool. You guys know about the specs as far as like the 6.2-inch display. Looks great. 720p is fine. It looks beautiful from what everyone has said. All this other stuff, like I said, I'm not really a techie, so I wouldn't know about all the other things. But from what I understand, you know, the CUDA cores and the actual ARM CPUs, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good CPU. It's definitely not bad at all. The CUDA cores maybe could be a little bit stronger, I guess, or more of them, but there wouldn't be anywhere to put them, apparently. So I think that it's not bad for what they're trying to do here. I have heard something about NVIDIA's performance being a little bit better. It's not a direct comparison to what like AMD is doing, so you can, I guess, get a little bit better based on lower numbers. That's what I've heard. Like I said, don't quote me on that one. Definitely not a techie. But it does seem to me, based on everything here, in addition to people just getting hands-on and we're seeing the games, everything is looking good. And I think that's the biggest thing to me, is like, does it look good? Does it play good? A lot of the games are looking good and playing good. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is looking awesome, so I really can't wait for that game. Super Mario Odyssey looks great. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 looks great. Fire Emblem Warriors is looking great. So just as long as the games are looking good and they're playing good, I'm happy with them. I could care less. I definitely don't really care to put like so much emphasis on tech specs and all that stuff, but I do feel that this is definitely not bad, and it's a console that you can play anywhere. It has the power of a home console. It can get some of those games. In addition to that, you can play that on the go, and it's several times stronger than anything any other company has done when it comes to a mobile device. And I think that's really cool, and it's important to definitely note that. And I know that Digital Foundry definitely said that this is the most powerful mobile device by far that they've seen. I think the tech inside there is pretty cool, and I think that it's a pretty strong device for being mobile and also being at home. The power draw is pretty small as well, and yeah, it definitely had that extra gigabyte added in there. We should see some pretty awesome games running on it. The architecture is much better with the NVIDIA, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what third-party developers, but first and foremost, what Nintendo first-party developers do on this device. Alright guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Go ahead and hit that like button if you did like it. Let me know you guys want more content like this going forward in the future, and subscribe to PlayerEssence for the latest news, reviews, discussions, and more. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you ninjas for the next video. Peace!